الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. So we were studying the 23rd verse, and today inshallah we will study page number 23rd verse, second chapter, fourth remark. Should be 336, page 336.
Fourth remark. Man resembles a delicate and petted child in the universe. There is a great strength in his weakness and great power in his impotence. For it is through the strength of his weakness and power of his impotence that beings have been subjected to him. If man understands his weakness and offers supplications verbally and by state and conduct, and recognizes his impotence and seeks help, since he has offered thanks by exhibiting them, he achieves his aims, and his desires are subjugated to him in a way far exceeding what he could achieve with his own power. Only, he sometimes wrongly attributes to his own power the attainment of a wish that has been obtained for him through the supplications offered by the tongue of his disposition. For example, the strength and the weakness of a chick causes the mother hen to attack a lion, and its newly born lion cub subjugates to itself the savage and hungry lioness, leaving the mother hungry and the cub full. See the strength and weakness and manifestation of divine mercy, which are worthy of notice. Just as through crying or asking or looking unhappy, a child subjugates the strong to himself, and is so successful in getting what he wants that he could not obtain 1,000th of it with 1,000 times his own strength. That is to say, since weakness and impotence excite compassion and a sense of protection towards him, the child can subjugate heroes to himself with his tiny finger. Now, should such a child with foolish conceit deny the compassion and accuse the protection, saying, I subjugate these with my own strength, of course he will receive a slap. In the same way, if Qarun, man says, I have been given it on account of the knowledge I have, that is, I gained this through my own knowledge and my own power, in a way that demonstrates ingratitude and denies his Creator's mercy and accuses his wisdom, he will of course deserve a punishing blow. This means that man's domination and human advances and the attainments of civilization, which are to be observed, have been made subject to him not through his attracting them or conquering them or through combat, but due to his weakness. He has been assisted because of his impotence. They have been bestowed on him due to his indigence. He has been inspired with them due to his ignorance. They have been given him due to his need. And the reason for his domination is not strength and the power of knowledge, but the compassion and clemency of the Sustainer and divine mercy and wisdom. They have subjugated things to him. Yes, what clothes man who is defeated by vermin like eyeless scorpions and legless snakes in silk from a tiny worm and feeds him honey from a poisonous insect is not his own power, but the subjugation of the Sustainer and the bestowal of the most merciful, which are the fruits of his weakness. O man, since the reality of the matter is thus, give up egotism and arrogance. With the tongue of seeking help, proclaim your impotence and weakness at the divine court. And with the tongue of entreaty and supplication, your poverty and need. Show that you are his slave. Say, God is enough for us, for he is the best disposer of affairs, and rise in degree. Also, do not say, I am nothing, what importance do I have, that the universe should purposefully be made subject to me by an absolutely all-wise one, and universal thanks required of me. Because for sure, you are as though nothing with respect to your soul and form, but from the point of view of duty and rank, you are an observant spectator of this majestic universe, an eloquent, articulate tongue of these beings so full of wisdom, a discerning reader of this book of the universe, a supervisor of these creatures, full of wonder at their glorifications, and like a foreman of these beings full of respect for their worship. Yes, O man, In regard to your vegetable physical being and animal soul, you are a death particle, a contemptible atom, a needy creature, a weak animal, who tossed on the awesome waves of the flood of beings is departing. But being perfected through the light of belief, which comprises the radiance of divine love, and through the training of Islam, which is enlightened in regard to humanity and servitude to God, you are a king, in a universal within particularity, and within your insignificance, a world, and within your contemptibility, a supervisor of such high rank and extensive sphere that you can say, my compassionate sustainer has made the world a house for me, the sun and moon lamps for it, and the spring a bunch of flowers for me, and summer a table of bounties, and the animals he has made my servants, and he has made plants the decorated furnishings of my house. To conclude, if you hate Satan and your soul, you will fall to the lowest of the low. But if you hate truth and the Quran, you will rise to the highest of the high and become the most excellent pattern of the universe.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, so anybody wants to give us a brief summary before we start discussing paragraphs? Some very brief overview.
And all my participants.
Awesome. Yes, awesome. Would you like to give us the main theme of the text? So before we start discussing the details?
Main theme, Assalamu alaikum, is to realize who man is, what his status is, what his position is, and realize how weak he is. Inshallah. Let's try this.
And this is what we have been discussing for the last 7 months, I guess. So this was too much of a general theme, but thank you. Narrow it down.
It has not been 7 months, has it? Already?
I don't know. Maybe not 7 months, yeah. Zafar, would you like to narrow it down?
There is a great strength in his weakness and great power in his impotence. It looks contradictory. If you say you are strong, you are weak. If you say you are weak, you're strong. Weakness. What is weakness? Is it saying I am weak?
So in previous discussions, he was mentioning that human is needy in general.
Yeah.
So is this weakness and neediness similar?
They look similar. So what is being needy or being weak? Need is more like I need this or that. Weak, when you say weak, am I able to satisfy those needs by myself? So they're related. Not the same, but related. So what does it mean to be weak?
And in the same line, I wanted to ask, in what sense does the author mean the human is weak in terms of power, in terms of intelligence or intellect, or in terms of some other criterion? So the way when we hear the word weak, everyone probably understands it differently. So I think it will be helpful to break it down and better understand weakness in terms of what.
You're right to ask the question. It depends on, my understanding is it depends on the type of need we're talking about. If you're talking about hunger, the need is hunger, then weak means I am unable to satisfy my hunger, or powerful. I am powerful means I am able to satisfy my hunger. If the need is to search for meaning, weak means I cannot satisfy my need for meaning, and so on. So it is as the type of weakness is as many as the types of neediness, I think.
Man is trying to conquer the world, and I guess this, even the industrial, what was it, revolution, was trying to win over the quote-unquote nature. Because we were under the influence of weather, we were under the influence of like food shortage, or going from one place to another. And with, let's say, invention of planes, airplanes, or this engines, which Amit can inform us more about them. So with this sort of stuff, man is becoming more stronger, because let's say horses were much capable in terms of going from one place to the other, but we become more capable by inventing the engine, car engines. Then birds were flying freely. Now we become stronger as humanity by inventing the aeroplanes, or even the rockets. We are now even going to the moon. So in the sense, human is trying to become stronger relative to, let's say, 5 centuries before. Today, man is more capable of conquering the world. So in this sense, we are getting stronger, I guess.
They say
It doesn't change the fact that we are needy creatures. Yes, I mean, your example explains like we are getting stronger in terms of technology and stuff, but yet we need food, we need water, we need love, we need compassion and everything.
Do we not need airplanes?
Do you not? I mean, we create that need. But no matter what technological advances we're always needed.
Yes, but we need it and we have it.
Yeah.
No, we don't have it. That's the part that he's talking about, is given.
Right. So
we don't have it.
The claim is
we need it, and continuously it's being given to you.
So how is it given? He says that these advances, attainments of civilizations have been made subject to him not through his attracting them or conquering them or through combat, but due to his weakness. He has been assisted because of his impotence. They have been bestowed on him due to his indigence. So how did this happen? How were they given? You say given, right?
Yeah.
How were they given?
I mean, I need water, it's out there. I need air, it's out there. I need food, it's out there.
No, we're talking about this.
Let's say you need to
civilization
organic adhesive. You need to make an organic adhesive.
Right.
So how do you get it?
All the ingredients out there.
Yeah.
And you need to,
with your hard work,
learn how to use it, how to utilize it.
Right. We work hard to find the adhesive, right?
Yeah.
Is it still given to you?
It is.
How?
Isn't that I'm not the one who is making all the ingredients, or I'm not the source of that intelligence. Yeah. Like, I found myself with that capacity how to use those utilities, right?
Right.
Those ingredients, if you like.
You're right.
Or the intelligence.
Right.
Reasoning.
Right.
I mean, I didn't buy them from anywhere. I found them.
But most importantly, you didn't make the need for the adhesive.
That's correct.
Right? It starts there. That was the most important thing that was given to you. The need. In elsewhere, he says, Allah shows, or the Creator shows, His generosity through giving needs. Because through those needs that we get to know the generous one. Through His providership for the needs. Yeah?
Yeah, we found ourselves needy.
Right. So as civilization advances, we discover more and more needs. We were not, or needs that we were not aware of. Like that adhesive. Who was aware of the need for such an adhesive 100 years ago? Nobody. Now there are among us people who realize the need. Right? So civilization advances to teach us our neediness.
Apparently the author is looking at it from a different perspective. I guess Yusufi is aligned with what he is saying, but we might need to open it up a little bit. Because Yusuf's friend in the office might also say that, yeah, we are inventing this adhesive because we are studying hard. Look at those other nations, those other people, they are lazy, they don't work. And we are being the ones that are becoming strong. We are being the ones that are sending the rockets to the space. And this is because we are smart, this is because we are hardworking. But author in here is saying that it has nothing to do, it is because you are needy, it is because you are weak. Exactly the opposite statement is being made by the author here. So how do you make such a distinction, such a opposite statement about the same case?
So how do you get there? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow we go to office, I mean, on Monday. You say to your friend about this, and what sort of a conversation?
They'll laugh at you.
But what sort of a conversation will take place there?
I think we would first need to show that such claims of conquering the world and whatnot leads to weakness. Claims on power leads to impotence. So you claim that you've been getting stronger and stronger, look at you. You find yourself in a state of more and more needs that go unsatisfied, unfulfilled. So if a person doesn't have a problem there, doesn't realize this, then I don't think there's much to talk any further. So first, I think that a person has to have a problem on impotence. If I'm true to myself, I should realize that, given the multitude of needs that I find myself in, that go unfulfilled, I should realize that I am really impotent in reality. I can claim otherwise, it's up to me. And then, if I do realize that I'm impotent, and yet I want to be strong, wanting to be strong is also given to me, right? That's another need. I don't want to find myself helpless in the face of all these needs. And so that is also given to me. So what do I make of this situation? And the author says, he gives examples of, a baby who is the weakest, in a weakest state, gets her needs fulfilled in the most easiest fashion. There are examples in front of us that show, hey, it is in reverse proportion. The more a being realizes its impotence, the easier that those needs are met. So what does this mean to you?
It's an interesting statement he starts with for Remark. It says, man resembles a delicate and petted cherub in the universe. Man is like a child.
I was thinking of this yesterday, looking at Aliyah. Because she's so, outwardly she's so weak, but also so sweet, right? And everybody's serving her, right? And I said, how different are we from her? We just think we take care of our needs, right? We imagine that we take care of our needs, run errands and so on. But in reality, we are no different from Aliyah. We are being taken care of.
What is it that makes Aliyah taken care of? Because she cries, then her father stops eating food, just runs after her.
Right.
So is it the strength of the cry, sort of? When she cries, really hard.
Crying is so powerful. She cries and gets it.
Through her power,
Right.
she makes you like subjugate to herself.
Right.
So the water is wrong.
Crying gives you a lot of strength.
Crying is just so annoying that you don't want to hear it. That's how you run.
Even you were hungry, right? You didn't think about your food, you were hungry.
Yeah. You just want to shut her up. Not out of mercy.
Yeah, this was father. It's not a good example.
Let's talk about the
But there were other people in the gathering yesterday, which out of their mercy, they went and picked up the baby.
That's very like illusion is right. Like when you talk about like inventions and like material progress in terms of like engines, cars, like planes, rockets. The best example that comes to my mind is Steve Jobs. He got everything that he could possibly have, but he had no control over his own life. So like, if he like attribute the knowledge, like for example, like the knowledge of making an engine, if we attribute that knowledge to ourselves as if we are being the source of it, then you acquire everything like through your own knowledge and strength. But the question is, do you really even know how that knowledge comes into existence? Do you understand that whole process? Or that knowledge also is being created, being given to you?
Right.
We like to think that we own the knowledge and we are the ones in control, but like in reality, like it comes to the position of like, for example, like Steve Jobs, after all the achievements that he has accomplished, and he has no control over his own life, that he is destined for that.
Steve Jobs is an interesting example because he's the expert of making realize needs that people didn't know existed. Expert, the expert of the expert. So we dismiss him as, hey, this is a prime capitalist, right? He creates needs for people. But in this context, it is something desirable, isn't it? Because we are as rich as our needs if used properly. But you're right, he couldn't control his destiny.
Also talks about the verse of the Carver says that like I acquire all this through my own knowledge.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
drawing the attention to the fact that like where did you get the knowledge?
Right.
How did you acquire the knowledge to begin with?
And where did you get what is it, ilham? Inspirations, for example, as you develop a new product, for example. Where do the inspirations come from? You just say, I thought about this. This came to my mind. Just like it is raining. We don't think about where they come.
So in the example of baby, let's say Aliyah, so let's say she cries and you jump or help her. She cries and she learns that her cry has a power over you, or at least if this becomes her impression. So she keeps crying and then you come. So what happens is it starts being taken for granted. She's not even going to be thankful for it, and she will think that really the crying has the power. It's not that you are acting merciful. And eventually, after an age, let's say she becomes 7, 8, 10, whatever, when you will start responding, when you stop responding to her cries, then this is where the crisis happen in our lives. In, let's say, family relations, friendship relations, you are being this kind guy always, and then this other one starts abusing, thinking that you have to act as such. It's because it's your duty, and you are doing as such because this guy is charismatic or something. He has some sort of an intrinsic value for which you are not as if paying back. So I guess this is taken for granted is the problem in there. So I am taking it for granted that I get inspirations if I study enough. They just appear. It's for granted. It's not that it's a bounty, it's being given. It magically appears. It has to be there. It came to my mind, I say. Where did it come from? Mind is a thing, as if just produces ideas, bright ideas. So I became like the spoiled child.
How could I apply this in my life, though? Like practically.
Could you repeat the question?
How could I apply this in my life, though? Like, okay, I agree with this. I think it is the truth. But, like, how could I apply it into the way I live?
Do you see any relevance to your life?
I mean, the way I imagine it is like if I just stopped and didn't do anything and just cried, I wouldn't be given what I wanted.
Like Aliyah. Aliyah is like 10 months old.
Okay.
So like then like you should ask the question, what does like at your age, for example, what does crying mean?
Okay, so you're just telling me I need to go work. And I'm not, I shouldn't think I'm weak then. So you're saying that for Aliyah, crying is her working? Is that like?
Let's put it this way, like when Aliyah first was born, it was like very like interesting observation for me. When she was trying to like, when Mary was trying to breastfeed her, like everything is there, right? The whole setup is there. Like Aliyah really doesn't really have to do anything. Except like there is one thing that like she just still needs to like suck on the breast to get the milk out of it.
Right.
So God created a perfect system, perfect order, in a way that like because of out of the mercy and compassion that she will be like very well taken care of. But still yet like even at the very like early age, there is this like exercise of free will that you have to practice it.
Yes. Starts with your mouth. And then spreads everywhere.
So like for her, that was her work that she had to do.
So basically you're telling me
but
that
it is for a baby, like it's very difficult at the beginning, at least it's very difficult, I guess, to like practice or exercise the muscles of the jaws. So at the beginning they are having a hard time to like latch on it. But they still have to do it, like in order to get the milk out of it.
So don't change anything. Like at least physically, just do exactly the same things that I've been doing. Maybe mentally change my perspective.
It is physically that, yeah, I don't think there will be anything changing like the way that you live your life. But like how you perceive things to be is completely different.
Well,
180-degree different.
right, but you know, if in one case, if you think that you're doing things yourself, and you also realize that you have so many needs that eventually will go unsatisfied, that can put you in a bad mood, and you may give up altogether, right? You may give up trying altogether. However, if you know that things are being subjugated to you on account of you asking them from their source, and through this asking, you get immediate satisfaction because you're getting the meaning. You understand why you're here, right? And you know what purpose your existence serves. That danger isn't there.
And
so
you know that your existence depends on the creator, the maker of you, like not the causal chains. Like it's not. You are not dependent on the causal relationship. If your existence only depends on the creator, who is the most wise and absolutely powerful. What it really means in the practical life, like last week or the week before, there was some sort of conflict at work. And my boss said that like he's having stomach like cramps or something, like spasm or whatever you want to call it, because of the stress and all that like at work. And I was like, why are you getting stressed so much? Like this job is not the provider, like God is the provider. Like either through this job or another job, God is the sustainer of you. He is the provider of you. Like this company is not the provider. And that was just so like, how do you say?
Eye-opening?
Yeah. It's some sort of like eye-opening, because it was like, he kind of, as if lifted like dark cloud over the guy and just repeated a couple of times, and I heard repeating to someone else that like, God is the provider, not the job. So, in reality, like, we are going through the same stress, right? Like, and still we will go through the same stress. But on one hand, like, you can deal with the situation thinking that this is the only source of like sustenance that you can find, and you're completely dependent on that company, as opposed to thinking that God is the provider. Yeah, God is in this type of creation. He works through the
relationships.
It works like the things through the causal relationship as far as we are concerned. So whether through this company or another company, you will still provide what you need, whatever your needs are. So it brings a lot of like relief.
Right. The ultimate objective is to get to know the source of my existence. Whether I get what I need, material need, is not even secondary in reality. So, like, we get to know the most generous only through needs. If you didn't have needs, you wouldn't. Right? So needs can be seen as an invitation to get to know the all generous, the most generous. So if through a need, we name the need, okay? Water, okay. Sustainer. If through the quenchment of my thirst, I get closer to him, to that beautiful name, right? Or I get in touch with that, that's what matters. And if whenever I feel weak of satisfying a need, I get to know one who is the source of all of these weaknesses and needs. That's the whole idea. That's why we're here. We're not here to build wealth or come to a state where all needs are satisfied. These are just part of a scenario, but of no importance at all.
They are not essentials. They are not essentials.
Yeah.
Like years ago, like I was at work and I think for the lunch break, like I got out of the office and for whatever reason I just got the sky for it like really like beautiful, pleasant summer day and it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, there was no wind, it's just one of those perfect weather. Blue sky, and I look at the sky and the sun and like hearing the birds chirping. That was like for the first time in my life that I can remember. It kind of hit me in the head that like I really do not need anything else to experience that moment other than him. Like in terms of like living that moment, existing, experiencing that moment, or witnessing that moment. You don't need a job, you don't need any kind of things that you think in your head that like you need to have a career, you need to have like job, like you need to have money, you need to have whatever it might be. You don't really need any of those stuff in order to experience that moment. Which you exist and your existence, that the moment of that, like the existence of that moment is completely depends on him and nothing else.
So, author here is introducing a new idea about supplication in this sense, as if he is, because we have been working, so as Abdurrahman is rightfully asking, how am I going to apply that? So in our mind there's this concept of work, I have to do that. Now the author is changing this concept with another concept, since we are thinking in terms of concepts, so he is suggesting something else, and supplication being this concept. I will just reread it and then we can talk about what he means by that. Starting from the beginning, man resembles a delicate and petted child in the universe. There is a great strength in his weakness and great power in his impotence. For it is through the strength of his weakness and power of his impotence that beings have been subjugated to him. If man understands his weakness and offers supplications verbally and by state and conducts, if man understands his weakness and offers supplications verbally and by state and conduct, and recognizes his impotence and seeks help, since he has offered thanks by exhibiting them, he achieves his aims and his desires are subjugated to him in a way far exceeding what he could achieve with his own power. So this is one side of the coin, which he is now introducing the idea of this supplication. And then he goes and talks about what we were discussing. Only he sometimes wrongly attributes to his own power the attainment of a wish that has been obtained for him through the supplications offered by the time of his disposition. For example, the strength in the weakness of a chick causes the mother hen to attack a lion, and its newly born lion cub subjugates to itself the savage and hungry lioness, leaving the mother hungry and the cub full. See this strength in weakness and manifestation of divine mercy, which are worthy of notice. So how about this supplication business?
Supplication is realization of the weakness. Right? He understands his weakness and offers supplication. How do you offer supplication? First, you recognize your weakness, and verbally and by state and conduct, express this. And it is interesting that he says that he has offered thanks by exhibiting them. Isn't it interesting? Like, you don't say thank you. It's not, you don't offer thanks by saying thank you. You've given me a lot. When people think they received a lot, then they say thank you, right? I have a lot now. You gave me a lot. I have a lot, so thank you. No, it's the opposite. He offers thanks by exhibiting what was given to him. What was given to him? Weakness. The complete inability to fulfill the unlimited desires given to him. That's how you offer thanks.
looking at it in this way is really interesting. Let's say in the office you are making a research. So making a research means I don't know the answer. This is why I am searching for the answer. So if I look at what I am doing, that means I don't have it. So I am needy, I am weak, and I am searching for it. But the problem is when it is given to me, because I was already declaring within my state that I am in need of it and I don't have it, but then I'm not aware of it. Someone puts it in front of me. Wrongfully, I think that I found it, not that it is given to me. But if I were to be conscious, just the act of research itself is asking and also declaring that I don't have it.
What is the gist of the supplication? What is really at the core of supplication? What does it really mean?
Unlocking your everything, understanding of this.
So understanding that you are an out and he's a ma'bud,
Yeah.
and establishing that relationship. Understanding that you are an out means that, like whatever you were saying, like it means that like coming to the realization that you are completely dependent on him. And he is the provider and he is the sustainer that takes care of like every needs.
You and all your needs. Yeah.
He's the giver of the needs, he's the provider of the needs, and he set up the universe in that sense, like in that context, so you can practice this understanding that you are not independent. Your existence depends on him.
Right.
And the only duty that we have really is just acknowledging that.
Right.
And through the weakness and the needs, it's establishing a relationship with your Lord.
Right.
That so it's going to be more practical, like that you can actually practice that, like in everyday life. Like for example, when you wake up in the morning, go to the lab. If one can live with that kind of consciousness, thinking that I'm not really the founder or inventor of the whatever you are like looking for, but I'm just simply like I'm aware of my need, and I'm aware of the fact that he is the provider. So I'm just actively seeking or asking for the answer. In that sense, it's something very practical actually. Like it's not just like you have to like supplication. When we say supplication, usually like because the rituals comes to mind, but this becomes like more like an every moment thing. So you can be supplicating to God in every moment if you can have that kind of like consciousness. So like in one hand supplication, maybe also you can say glorification, so like they kind of I think go together. Through your supplication and realizing that you are needy and like you are nothing but an out that is dependent on him, he is also glorifying him in terms of his mightiness.
So, considering that this is now the fourth remark, and he was talking about human, so as if now he's bringing us to job of human or the purpose of human. Because human was needy. In the previous one, he said human needs to learn. And now he is bringing us to a point that human is needy and weak. So the only option that remains to human is also being provided. But apparently the job of human is then to consciously ask, be cognizant of the fact that I am asking and he is giving. So I am needy and I am asking and he is giving, which is supplication. So human is made for supplication and offering thanks, the two things. Because he said, as you ask, you are also offering, intrinsically you are offering your thanks.
Right. Ali Hoja is studying these days 2 verses at NYU. I think these two verses are related to what we're discussing here. So I'm going to read these two verses from Surah Al-Fajr. As for man, when his Lord tries him by honoring him and bestowing him blessings on him, he says, my Lord has honored me. Right? So it sounds like this person has said the right thing, right? My Lord has honored me. The verse continues, whereas whenever he tries him by straightening his means of livelihood, restricting his means of livelihood, he says, my Lord has disgraced me. Right. So at first instance, we say, he told the right thing in the first one, in the first situation, my Lord has honored me, but he failed in the second one. However, if you think about this, if this is the same person, then there should be a mistake in both of them. The mistake is clear in the second one. What is it in the first one? My Lord has honored me. Based on what we discussed.
You deserve it. He has some sort of intrinsic right to be honored. That's why he did so.
I'm honored. I have it. I'm honored. He gives the effect to what's being given, the blessing. Tesir, nedir tesir? Effect. Okay. So I have the blessing. I'm honored. I don't have it. I'm not honored. No. Totally wrong. The blessing itself is completely immaterial. What the person needed to do was to focus on the need. Right? The giving of the need, realizing the giving of the, I am being given this need, and through this need I am being educated, I get to know the most gracious, generous one. That is the blessing. That itself is the blessing, not the material blessing itself. So in both situations, the person is stuck with the material blessing, whether he has it or he doesn't have it, and he concludes whether he's honored or disgraced based on that. So that horizontal line of thinking is completely wrong. In either case, it's wrong. Right? Somebody gives you the need for an orange, right? And then gives you the orange. But what do you make of this? He's trying to create a relationship with you. That's what matters, not the orange. Whether you have it or you don't have it.
Emin has a comment here. Emin, would you like to read it yourself or maybe reiterate it?
Yeah, I was just commenting on the topic that was discussed a few minutes earlier, the understanding what offering thanks mean. And in a nutshell, what I wrote on the chat box is I think the offering thanks is actually seeking help. In other words, doing something. In other words, using our free will to attempt in achieving what we really need. So when we utilize our free will, as opposed to doing nothing or choosing nothing, we are standing by, or we are we are declaring a position, if you will. In other words, we are choosing something to exist. Let's say I am sick, I seek medicine because I love existence of health. And through this seeking, through this utilization of my free will, I get to know how the source of existence is actually bringing life or other things, everything into existence. Without ability to choose one over another, I would not have a chance to offer thanks, show my servantship or recognize my creator, etc. So I guess in a nutshell, I am making a connection with, I'm connecting the idea of offering thanks to using our free will, and how important or how central is to use human free will in this life.
Jazakallah khair. Awesome. Would you like to make comments?
No.
Awesome is subjugated.
I'm sleeping.
Okay. Any comments? I see Aisha Noor, Fariha, Khadija Beza, Muhammad Said, Qasim, Shayma. Anybody wants to make comments?
Also, I was thinking like how like this is actually very powerful because of the, like in Ramadan, most of us are fasting, and how, the hunger that we're feeling, it makes us realize, at least to me, like who I am, like my reality, and this sense of hunger is makes me feel, I am in the need of food, and hunger is not my need also. It's not the way, I didn't ask for it, it's just given to me the way I am as a human being. And maybe my fridge is full or it's not full, but still, even if I have to go to the market, the existence of food and everything is there for me. So the things are, or my ability to go and walk, everything, they just work in a way that somebody has arranged all those things, or is arranging that. And I'm really able to enjoy all that. But most of the time I don't realize that all these things are actually, are my needs is working as a supplication. And it's not me who is actually doing all this, but there's an organizer of some source that is actually providing all that. Yeah, so that's how, at least some reflection I had.
Fasting, I understand the issue, we all suffer from that, but inshallah, fasting should help us with this. One meaning, as I read from someone's comment on a email group, someone said that fasting has the sound, the Arabic word sound has the meaning of holding yourself in check. So just keep yourself in check. Whenever, it's not just about not eating or not drinking, we all know that, but whenever an idea comes to you, a feeling comes to you, just greet it and try to think how that need or that thought came to you, and what is it before you use it. Use the need or no, the thought. Just think on it. Just as we learn to not eat. Is it time to eat yet? No. Is it time to drink yet? No. Why do I ask the question? Because I learned to keep myself in check when it comes to eating or drinking or whatever, right? So this line of keeping oneself in check should permeate to other aspects of the way we function.
Maybe this is obvious, but I just wanted to iterate it for my own sake. This neediness that's been discussed in this section is not a relative neediness. It's absolute neediness, which means we don't have to feel melancholic about it. Oh, I am so weak. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing to do with that weakness that's been discussed here. Maybe this has been obvious to everyone, but I've been thinking about this point again, and I wanted to share this out loud. It's ontological, existential need. Therefore, this idea of neediness should not impact our everyday life negatively. Otherwise, I may be I may have misunderstood the main point.
Yes, thank you. So then I'm reading the next paragraph. Just as through crying or asking or looking unhappy, a child subjugates the strong to himself, and is so successful in getting what he wants that he could not obtain 1,000th of it with 1,000 times his own strength. That is to say, since weakness and impotence excite compassion and a sense of protection towards him, the child can subjugate heroes to himself with his tiny finger. Now, should such a child with foolish conceit deny the compassion and accuse the protection, saying, I subjugate these with my own strength, of course he will receive a slap. In the same way, if, like Karun, man says, I have been given it on account of the knowledge I have, that is, I gained this through my own knowledge and my own power, in a way that demonstrates ingratitude, and denies his Creator's mercy and accuses his wisdom, he will of course deserve a punishing blow.
This is the opposite, right? So he was given whatever he was given, and he's saying, Alhamdulillah, thank you Allah. But also he was given on account of his knowledge. So he's attributing the effect to the blessing itself. There's ingratitude. Why is there ingratitude? Because he's missing the potential to get to know his Creator's mercy through his need. And instead, he is reducing the relationship to whether or not the blessing was given or not. Right? You have a chance to, let's say, get millions of dollars through a lottery, right? Then if you just go and claim your present, you'll get the millions, but you don't do that. Rather, instead you focus on some petty thing, some small thing, and then you don't get your millions. Everybody would call you foolish, right? You demonstrate ingratitude. Somebody said, you just need to go claim your present. But for whatever reason, you miss it, you focus on something else.
It's interesting the way that Moshe is interpreting the verse. So the verse is in the passive form, says, Karun in here is saying that I have been given it on account of the knowledge I have. But Moshe is saying that I gained this through my own knowledge and my own power. And the guy, Karun in this case, is using a passive voice, saying that it is given to me, but because of my knowledge. This doesn't really change the fact that he actually implies I gained this through my knowledge. Some sort of inherent quality that I have.
He wants to be shared to the
partner.
Creator.
Misuse of ana.
Maybe different degrees of ingratitude between the passive and active.
So after the author saying that he will of course deserve a punishing blow, then I guess this is something that can be questioned, what he means when he says, I deserve a punishing blow if I behave like I gained it with my power. in the existence, how does it feel in my day-to-day life? Me deserving a punishing blow because of me acting in such an arrogant way.
That mindset is the punishment itself. You're taking the burden on your own shoulders.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. What is punishing itself?
That mindset, thinking that like you require that like whatever develop you have through your own knowledge, like having that sort of understanding means that like you are taking the burden on your own shoulder, so that you have to also, you are responsible also for maintaining it. You know what kind of burden it is? Like to live with that kind of mindset. That's the source of like all the like anxiety and stress that you go through in life every day. So that comes as a punishment. So like God really doesn't have to do anything extra to punish you. And I think this is the reason why like also verse talks about all high, all good is from God, all share and evil is from your own nafs. So we bring the punishment to ourselves, like on our own. John has something to say.
Yeah, that makes sense. We are bringing on ourselves by misappropriating the or misattributing the source of existence by making bogus claims. We are, loading extra unnecessary burden on our shoulders, which becomes unbearable. And that's it. I was gonna say something, but I decided not to. Thanks.
I think the more experienced parents can maybe like say more to this. Like you even see that in like since you guys gave the example of Aliyah crying and like somebody's handling the needs. And the moment that you realize that actually she's doing it on purpose and she's spoiling it, she's spoiling the intention, then you say that like, okay, like now I have to control myself in a way that, because that's not good for her either. So I have to like kind of act accordingly, that will kind of teach her a lesson, right? So from her side, that's a punishment because whatever she wants, she doesn't get it. But from your side, like you are trying to train her. So I don't think that relationship is any different than like Rob versus the ops. Like if you aren't like you want something really bad and you are not getting it, or like you think that you are being punished, it's probably God wants to teach you something in that like context.
Apparently, Nursi is supporting a little bit of slapping children in education. As a side note for the parents.
It is from paradise, right? Slapping is from paradise.
So I keep reading. This means that man's domination and human advances and the attainments of civilization, which are to be observed, have been made subject to him not through his attracting them, or conquering them, or through combat, but due to his weakness. He has been assisted because of his impotence. They have been bestowed on him due to his indigence. He has been inspired with them due to his ignorance. They have been given to him due to his need. And the reason for his domination is not strength and the power of knowledge, but the compassion and clemency of the Sustainer and divine mercy and wisdom. They have subjugated things to him. Yes, what clothes man who is defeated by vermin like eyeless scorpions and legless snakes in silk from a tiny worm? So, going back to this, what clothes man in silk from a tiny worm and feeds him honey from a poisonous insect is not his own power, but the subjugation of the Sustainer and the bestowal of the most merciful, which are the fruits of his weakness.
Which are the fruits of his
weakness. So since we are running short of time. I will keep reading. Anybody wants to make any comment before I keep reading?
Is it clear this part?
We discussed about it sort of. So, yeah, go ahead. Someone who opened the microphone.
No, so I'm trying to understand how these advances are still like out of our impotence. You know, like for example, your cell phone, and how does that tell me, you know, that is my need or my weakness?
Yeah, like need for communication.
Yeah.
I wanna call my mom and tell her how much I love her, the quickest and cheapest way possible, which leads into decades of technological development.
Decades of supplication, you mean?
Yeah, you could say that. Like it used to be, you used to buy, the people who live in America, the early immigrants, they would buy $30 call cards, and it would cost them a couple dollars a minute to call their relatives overseas. Now it's free. I mean, virtually free with use of Skype or other applications. So why we have all these developments in that area? Because we needed to keep the line of communication with our relatives, in a much cheaper and more efficient and effective way. That need drove the development. That's how I understood.
Just playing a devil's advocate here, that's not exactly true. All this investments came through the defense industry because they needed to bomb something in a very precise way. But that's besides the point.
That doesn't disprove the core idea of the development being driven by a need, regardless of its evil use or good use. Doesn't matter. Whatever the example is, it's always driven by a need.
True. And supplication.
Right.
So the need to stay healthy and fit. So that's why all the medical advances that are being made, right? So we are discovering the scientists are discovering the order in the universe based on the need for our physical and societal well-being, and all the infrastructure that's being done for our ease, like the roads and the bridges and all the the way the pipes are laid out for us to get all the facilities in terms of the gas and the electricity for all our human needs that are the way we want to live in a easy kind of peaceful life. It's interesting actually how this need actually is translated into looking at the order, and then the advancement is made in terms of conquering all these things in the universe and how it gets subjugated to actually serve us human beings. Never thought of it that way.
Right. It's similar to, let's say, for example, let's say my parent is sick and I'm here and there, thousands of miles away, and I have a need to be with him or her, as soon as possible, right? And so if I know that I can fly, right? So even if the tickets are very expensive, I can pay because I know that as long as it's within my ability to pay, I'll pay and I'll go. That shows how needy I can be of the blessing of being able to fly. But 200 years ago, people weren't aware of such a need. Now we can get to know our Creator from this aspect, from a different need that people didn't have back then. I mean, they weren't aware. I mean, they probably wished they could fly, but they didn't think about it much.
Awesome, we heard Awesome's voice, we heard Emin's voice, but not the rest of the people. Any comments? Questions? Everybody is weak today, hungry,
Needy.
and needy.
So, they classify countries based on their technological investments. So, let's say the United States is the most powerful one because of all this technological stuff. In that context, then we have to say the United States is the weakest one, the most needy one. Is that?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
really, so
Right.
it sounds very funny.
Isn't that true though? Like, if you think about the society here, like, just like when you drive, like, look at the billboards, like, and see all the, like, bombardment of, like, insurance, like, and, like, healthcare, whatever it is, like, the hospitals. So, they are there to really, like, kind of somehow quench that, like, need, that, anxiety. But it is exploited. But no matter how advanced it is, still, I feel like it is really the most miserable and most needy society in a sense, because there is no that kind of connection.
If not fulfilled, yeah. But I thought that he was referring to the innovativeness of the country. You're saying that the United States developed the most technology only because this country had the most innovators who felt the most need to develop this kind of technology. Is that what you said?
A little bit. Why do we say United States is the most powerful country besides like economy? Maybe right now China is a little bit on the stage, but why are we saying that? Yeah, yes, their economy is very powerful. Why? Because behind this economy there's like very strong technology and science and innovation. So that makes them very powerful. But in that context, they say you're very big, very needy as a response to this neediness, this technological stuff like given to you. That's what I understood. Maybe I'm wrong, but in what, and then this explanation makes United States the most big or the needy one.
The way I understand it is that this country had the most people, entrepreneurs, inventors, who express their neediness if they're high, with the way they are, the most. Like Silicon Valley is full of people who are constantly day in and day out trying to figure out new business models, new technologies, right? So the way they are, they're high, is in a state of neediness. How can I do this? How can I need this? I need this.
Like one more thing I think they're saying, like the other half of the point. Neediness is one thing, but like asking for it, like for the needs is another thing. So supplication is there as well.
Right.
So even though the individuals may not see it as a supplication, and they may not think that it's a supplication, but they also constantly searching for the ways to come up with new ideas, new innovations. So it's not just the need. Like need is one thing there, but like if you're not acting upon the need, then you are not really getting anywhere.
Of course, you may completely miss the point of why you are creating a situation like this.
Yeah, like you may not have any kind of understanding that actually, like that's your purpose to know through that like need, but still like you work hard for it.
That doesn't change the fact that you're in a state of supplication.
Yeah, but you are not in consciousness.
So whichever country has more of those people will advance more.
Because they're supplicating in congregation.
Right.
So Silicon Valley is the Mecca of capitalism.
Of supplication.
Yeah, they worship together and the Creator gives them. That's simple.
No consciousness. Conscience.
Yeah. Collective personality.
So there's a conclusive paragraph that I will read, then we can close. O man, since the reality of the matter is thus, Give up egotism and arrogance. With the tongue of seeking help, proclaim your impotence and weakness at the divine court, and with the tongue of entreaty and supplication, your poverty and need. Show that you are his slave. Say, God is enough for us, for he is the best disposer of affairs, and rise in degree.
Why is God enough for us? That explains it, right? We've been talking about it. Getting to know God is what matters.
You need to stop here.
We can stop here. Inshallah, next week we can start from here. If there is any other comments. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين